local program BelAhdan, a show with an accent for those without one. A lot of news, Muslims in the news all the time. I don't know what's going on with the Republican. I don't know, about 55 of them running for president, and none of them really make any sense. And it seems like the last debate they made Islam is the biggest issue in this country, and now Islam is a problem. It is Muslims stupid. That's the theme of the Republican and the conservative. We all heard about dead 3 years old Aylan Kurdi. That image really moved a lot of people, brought and put a human face on the Syrians, the refugees, and thousands of Europeans start questions what is going on over there, and start questioning their government, their politicians about the role they play in creating the crisis to begin with. We have here a very special guest. She's a Syrian American activist, Suzan Boulad, and I just met her at one of the rally there that happened during the Labor Day. Welcome to BelAhdan, Susan.
Thank you.
And that was a very nice day there that you brought a rally and you brought your voice to an event that really did not expect you to be there. You know, the Keith Ellisons and Al Franken and Amy and all of them were talking about Labor Day and all of that, which incidentally, it's only for American, that Labor Day. You know, 1st of May is International Labor Day, but Americans have their own, right? But tell us a little bit the story about, making sure and what's important for you to be there.
Sure. So the week that Aylan al-Kurdi washed up on the shores of Turkey was the week before Labor Day, and I feel like I speak for many people where I felt very agitated at that picture. I've been involved with watching what's been happening both with the refugee crisis and what's been happening inside Syria for a very long time. But that image struck me in a way that I didn't know I could be affected anymore. So I wanted to take action, and I knew that there were many people who wanted to take action with me. A woman that I work with regularly, Terry Burke, was the one who recommended hosting a rally in the same place that Keith Ellison was hosting his Labor Day picnic. And I thought it was brilliant. Minnehaha Park is a wonderful place where there are many people strolling by casually. Keith Ellison has been a very valuable ally to Syrians in the Twin Cities and to Syrians and the community that supports them for a very long time. And Labor Day isn't so different than you'd think. It's an American movement that embodies human rights and dignity, which is all that refugees are asking for as well. And I thought that we would find a lot of allies with the participants of the Labor Day picnic, and we did. All three, Keith Ellison, Amy Klobuchar, and Al Franken were all there, and they all addressed us directly and very warmly. And I feel like we really made many connections to people that wanted to do something as well, but didn't know where to start. And so they saw us, approached them, and welcomed us.
It's interesting, the Syrian crisis has been going on for a while.
Yes.
I mean, this was the most peaceful Arab Spring in the Arab world.
Yes.
And it turned bloody and violent, and it seems like that everybody has a hand in it.
Yes.
The Americans, the Iranians, the
Russians,
the Saudis, everybody has a hand. So it's just embody what's wrong with that area. And people like you, your family, are the one who's paying the price.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit, we all talk about Syrian refugees. What that means? I mean, this is our people, and the images they put there, they are storming borders in Hungary and Turkey and all of that. It's like these people, they present them as people who wants to live there, who wants to know. Well, that's not the case.
No. So a Western audience probably doesn't know this, but before 2011, when you'd say the words Syria and refugee, almost immediately you would think of all of the hundreds of thousands of people that had found refuge inside Syria, from Palestinians to Iraqis.
Yes, the other way around.
It was the other way around.
Exactly.
Syria was was a very welcoming place, and its people opened their doors to any population fleeing conflict in the region. Unfortunately, the tables have turned, and although perhaps for some people that don't know much about the history of the region, they just see it as, oh, those people in the Middle East
The others.
are the others. This is what they're used to. They're used to violence. They're used to bloodshed. But it's not the case. It's something very dramatic, and the worst humanitarian crisis since World War II is coming out of Syria. And it's emblematic because it doesn't just affect Syrian lives, but it has effects, as we've seen, in the entire region and in the entire world. Now that refugees are flooding Europe, Europeans finally can't ignore Syrians anymore. Perhaps they could ignore Syrians when they're inside Syria, but now they're in their backyards. So we're a big issue right now, for better or for worse. But the refugee crisis is something very severe, and it needs to be addressed immediately in many ways.
So in Syria, is it a little bit different?
There is, maybe I'm biased, but I feel like there is something very uniquely tragic about refugees from Syria, in part because Syria was such a welcoming place for so many people from before, but also because the revolution was such a point of hope. It carried so much potential to really change the region dramatically. Syrians birthed a movement of creativity and of life and radiance that I had never seen before. And the refugee crisis, to me, symbolizes the final stamp that this revolution, this wave of inspiration is gone, at least for now, or at least has been very much compromised. And unfortunately, the Syrians that are fleeing Syria are some of the best and the brightest and the most creative people that I've ever met. Young and skilled and educated. Exactly. The people fleeing Syria have a lot to offer. And it is my biggest regret that these people can't offer their skills to Syria, to their own country.
And those not people who wants to be refugees. Those are one of the people who wants to stay in Europe.
Right, mainly because there isn't really any visible end to the conflict, and even if the regime were to transition out in this next, few months or the next year, the infrastructure of Syria is devastated, and it's going to take a very long time to get it back. But I disagree. I think that many people, when you ask them, would you like to stay here or do you want to go back? The vast majority of the responses of the people that I talk to, both my friends on Facebook and the refugees that I've talked to in the US, they all say they want to go back.
Nobody wants to leave their familiar places, their family, and all of that.
Homeland is powerful. You never leave your homeland.
Exactly. And you have family still in Syria.
Some family. Most of them are now in Jordan, but I still have family in Syria. Yes.
So when we talk about refugee in Europe, talk to us about refugee in Jordan and Turkey. There's a lot, millions of them there.
There are 4 million Syrians outside of Syria and 6 million Syrians displaced inside their homes. So out of the population has been displaced and are no longer living in their homes. So my family's experience, my family's from Homs, Syria, and Homs was attacked very early on by the regime back in 2012, and my family suffered very personally through the conflict, and I think you'd be very hard-pressed to find a Syrian family that wasn't affected. Everyone has lost a cousin, has had an uncle in prison, has had an aunt that was killed by shelling. It's affected the country as a whole, and most of my family, luckily, are now safe in Jordan. But I have an aunt who, she initially fled to Damascus when Homs was very dangerous, and has since come back to Homs now that Damascus has become more dangerous. So she has, even inside Syria...
You run out of places to hide.
You eventually run out of places to hide, but she's very stubborn and refuses.
We have only 1 minute here to talk about how many, the very few Syrians made it to the United States.
Yes.
And it seems like the United States still have difficulties dealing with it, accepting the fact there are dire need to have more of Syrian coming to this country. So how do you address that, and what the politicians are saying here?
Well, the Obama administration has been very reluctant to respond to any pressure when it comes to Syria, but when it comes to refugees, it seems like there is some willingness to negotiate. So at first we heard that the U.S. would accept a number of refugees in 2016, and now the number has been up to 100,000 refugees by 2017. And in part that's due to the overwhelming response of people, and our own Representative Keith Ellison sent a very strong letter to President Obama urging him to take more action. But more needs to be done. The U.S. can put pressure on countries like Hungary, which is tear gassing its refugees, putting them in cages, committing mass human rights violations, and it can also expedite the process.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Wish you all well. Suzan Boulad, Syrian American activist, talking about the Syrian refugees crisis and how the Americans need to do more. We'll see you next week. Assalamu alaikum, and God bless you all.
Haber uçtu devlete de 5 yıl yattım hapiste. Haber uçtu devlete de 5 yıl yattım hapiste. 7 düvel zindanından beterdir 7 kule. 7 düvel zindanından beterdir 7 kule. Nargilem duman duman, bayıldım aman aman. İstanbul güzel ama sahipleri pek yaman. Beş yıl bana yaraştı da nargilem buna şaştı. 5 yıl bana yaraştı da nargilem buna şaştı. Her gün çizdiğim usturağımla bağlamam doldu taştı. Her gün çizdiğim usturağımla bağlamam doldu taştı. Sarmacık garam yanar, çekerim ağarar. Tekkemiz güzel ama haber uçuranlar var. Hoppa.